This video is intended to provide instruction on how to install the Verifone 1000 SE tactile pin pad module in our Chico's, White House Black Market, and Soma stores. Before arriving at the store, each technician should have been provided with a Verifone 1000 SE pin pad, including a coiled pin pad cable and a Verifone signature pad data cable for connecting the device to the register computer. The Verifone signature pad data cable consists of a 12-volt powered USB connector at one end, a white Verifone signature pad connector at the other, and a communications brick with ports for connecting the pin pad in the middle. Chico's has had these cables modified in order to allow insertion into cash wraps by splitting the cable between the brick and the signature pad connector. The split in the cable now has a pair of pigtail connectors on each side. The pin pad is to be installed on the ADA cash wrap, which is easily identified by its lower countertop height compared to the other cash wraps in the store. To begin, press and release the power button on the underside of the lower left corner of the register's display. This will initiate the shutdown sequence, which can take a few minutes to complete. Verify that the register computer has completed its shutdown. Both the register display and the signature pad should now be blank. Remove the cover from the rear of the lower portion of the register's display. To do this, reach underneath on both sides and pull the spring-loaded tabs downward. The cover will rotate forward from the bottom edge of the display. Next, gently tilt the register computer onto its side, being careful not to damage the magnetic card reader mounted on the side of the register's display. This will give better visibility and access to the peripheral cables connected to the register's mainboard. Remove the powered USB connector by pressing on the turquoise strip on the underside of the connector to unlock it and then gently pulling the connector free. Next, remove the signature pad from the stand. This is done by loosening the locking screw on the rear of the signature pad stand. Then slide the signature pad upward along the stand to free the keyhole latches. Placing the signature pad on the counter face down will expose the connector, which is held in place by a locking plate secured with a single screw. Loosen the screw using the flathead screwdriver, or if one is not handy, a coin such as a quarter can be used as a substitute. The screw will not come completely free from the locking plate and can be used to lift the locking plate out of its housing. Remove the signature pad data cable with the yellow signature pad connector from the signature pad and also from the cash wrap. From the provided signature pad data cable, take the shorter piece. This cable will have a signature pad connector similar to the one that was just removed, except that the connector is white instead of yellow. The connector has a long, narrow female interface that must connect to the male interface on the underside of the signature pad. Be careful not to damage this interface during insertion. Insert the connector so that it sits flat, and the cable will easily fit into the channel for a flush finish on the underside of the signature pad. Reinstall the locking plate. Note that the locking plate has a tab that fits into a slot on the side of the port box. Screw down the locking plate using the flathead screwdriver or the coin as before. There are 3 keyhole-shaped mounts on the underside of the signature pad, which will line up with the corresponding posts on the signature pad stand. Place the signature pad so that the holes and posts line up, and then slide the signature pad down into position. Tighten the locking screw on the back of the signature pad stand. Insert the pigtail ends of the cable through the hole in the base of the signature pad stand. It may be necessary to do this one at a time for countertops with small holes. Most of the cash wraps offer access through a doorway or removable panel facing the customer. Some do not. Place the longer portion of the signature pad data cable inside the cash wrap, and then connect the 2 pigtail portions to one another. Each pigtail has a label. Simply connect the matching connectors to each other. Next, connect the RJ11 connector of the coiled cable to the pin pad. and feed the other end into the same hole in the countertop at the base of the signature pad stand. This end will then be connected to the COM1 port of the communications brick under the cash wrap. The 12-volt powered USB cable now needs to be fed through the cash wrap to the store associate side, where it will then be fed through the bottom of the register stand and connected to one of the turquoise 12-volt powered USB ports. The connector should click as it's inserted and the locking spring lands in its place. The register can now be turned to its upright position and powered on by pressing and releasing the power switch on the bottom edge near the lower right corner of the register's display. Immediately after pressing the button, hit the F10 key repeatedly. This will boot the register computer into its BIOS mode. In BIOS, we can confirm that the newly installed cables are all connected as they should be. Both the pin pad and the signature pad should power on and display their startup protocols. Troubleshooting should proceed as follows. If neither device powers on, check the connection of the powered USB cable to the register computer. If the pin pad powers on, but the signature pad fails to do so, check the connection of the Verifone data cable to the underside of the signature pad, and also check that the pigtail connectors have not been inverted. If the signature pad powers on, but the pin pad fails to do so, check the coiled cable is connected to COM1. Once the signature pad has completed powering up, place the signature pad into the configuration mode by inserting a paper clip into the hole located in the back right corner of the device. The landing lights and the credit card swipe should light up, and the screen will display the configuration menu. Follow the instructions in the provided documentation for configuring the signature pad. Once the configuration has been completed, press and release the power button on the register computer to exit BIOS and power the register off. Press and release the power button again to restart the computer, this time allowing it to boot into its register software. The store manager will then be able to run a test transaction to verify that the pin pad is connected and functioning correctly.